Please, all of you, make sure that your microphone is muted and you don't do presenting. Hello, everyone. As we have gathered here for the international webinar on artificial intelligence, present state and future perspectives, let's invoke God's blessings.
I see the stars, I hear the mighty thunder, thy path throughout the universe displays. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art! How great thou art! Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art! How great thou art!
Thank you, Ms. Annie Samuel, for the melodious song. Now, first of all, I thank and welcome the principal of the college, Reverend Sister Cheru Kusumam, who took the initiative to organize this international webinar. Welcome you, sister. We are indeed fortunate to have the best of the academic community as the resource persons of this 3-day international webinar. I welcome the eminent resource persons of the webinar, Dr. Bharati Pillar, Assistant Professor, University College, Mangalore, then Dr. Shiva Kumara, Associate Professor, University of Malaysia, and Mr. Parag Kamankar, Assistant Professor, MES ABS College, Pune. Next, I welcome all of you gathered here from various parts of the country and from abroad to take part in this, who came to take part in this 3-day international workshop. Welcome you all. Now, I invite Reverend Sister Cheru Kusumam, Principal of the college, for the inaugural address.
Good afternoon to all. Respected resource person Dr. Bharati Pillar, Dr. P. Shivakumar, Mr. Parag A. Tamkhalkar, dear colleagues and my dear participants. As we know, artificial intelligence is a wide-ranging branch of computer science concerned with building smart machines capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. AI is an interdisciplinary science with multiple approaches, but advancements in machine learning and deep learning are creating a paradigm shift virtually every sector in the sector of the tech industry. The rapid progressing of AI is seen in almost all fields. Nowadays, AI has potential to become more intelligent. AI today is not just a theory. In fact, it has many practical applications. AI in business, e-commerce, management, healthcare, cybersecurity, logistics, etc. offers far better speed and reliability. As we know the importance of AI, Assumption College organizes an international webinar series on artificial intelligence, present state and future perspectives with emphasis on 3 important topics. I am sure that the talks by the experts of this webinar series definitely helps the participants to know more on AI and its applications. I take this opportunity to congratulate the coordinator, Ms. Vincy Abraham, for her efforts to organize this webinar series. I wish God's blessings and success to the webinar series and declare the webinar series open. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Now, we move to the first session of the 3-day international webinar. The first session is Artificial Intelligence Technologies, Past, Present and Future. And the resource person for today's session is Dr. Bharati Pillar, Assistant Professor, University College, Mangalore. She completed her postdoctoral research fellow work from IISc, Bangalore, and she has published more than 80 papers in reputed international journals and conference proceedings. And she's the reviewer of IEEE, ACM, and Elsevier journals, and has served as technical program committee member of various international conferences. And she is the member of Board of Studies in various autonomous colleges and also in the Mangalore University. Now, I invite Dr. Bharati Pila to take over the session.
Thank you, Vinci, for the beautiful introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all doing well, staying safe and healthy. First of all, I would like to thank Sister Cheru Kusumam, Principal of Assumption College, Autonomous, and my friend and the coordinator of this webinar, Ms. Vinci Abraham. So let me present my screen. So please let me know if audio is not clear or any problem is there in the slide.
Audio is okay, no problem.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So hope you can see the slideshow. In this session, I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence technologies, past, present, and future. As we all know, over the course of next 20 years, there will be a drastic changes in the way we do our work. In fact, we are at the dawn of new age in the human history. Based on the way we work, we can classify human history into 4 major historical eras. The hunter-gatherer age, which lasted for several million years, and then came the agricultural age for several thousand years. Then came the industrial age for the couple of centuries, and came the information age, which lasted for few decades. Now we are on the verge of our next great era called augmented age. In this new era, our human capabilities, computational system, robotics, digital nervous system, all these things combine together and help us to think faster, take decisions accurately, and connect to our world in a way that is far beyond our natural senses. So let us start with the cognitive augmentation. How many of you are cognitive augmented cyborgs? If you ask this question, everyone say, no, we are not. But I would actually argue that we are all already augmented. Because we use cell phones almost for all purposes, right from calculation till the location of nearby restaurant. In one or the other, we are dependent on the technologies. In our daily day-to-day life, we use softwares like Google Map, Siri, Cortana, OK Google, and many other digital assistants and apps. So this is just a primitive beginning. Even Siri is just a passive tool. And you can notice in the picture, we are back to Stone Age. And we know for the last 3.5 million years, whatever tools we have used, all are completely passive. They just do what we tell them to do, nothing more. So in the picture, you can see the very first tool, which was used to cut the object, and it will cut the object only which we are aimed at. It cannot have its own intelligence to take its own decision. You know, this chisel tool, it only comes where the artist is pointing to. Okay? Even our most advanced tools like Siri, Cortana, or many design tools, they are all passive. We have to direct each and every step. We have to tell, do this, do that. I have to give my constraints. Everything I have to tell. My idea, I am embedding, I am telling it. I am writing instructions step by step. I am telling it, do this. So, what is happening? So we have always been limited by this need to manually push our wills into our tools. So we can't escape from this mouse, keyboard, and other digital like stylus and whatever. So we are literally using our hands to handle different input devices. Okay, so imagine instead of all these things, if I could tell a computer in a human language to perform a particular task as if I'm telling it to my assistant or maybe requesting my friend, then life would be much easier. Example, if the computer is capable of writing program for me, you will get 100, all this many students are here, you all will get 100 out of 100 in the practical. There is no question of conducting practical. Computer itself writing program for you. Okay, so I'm telling as if I'm asking my assistant to do, it come up with a fantastic design of a car. Okay, it will come up with a design, it will give me many options. I'll say, okay, not this kind of thing, not German made. So I'll give more requirements of my own, and that is designing by itself, not I'm dragging and dropping the tools. It automatically designing fantastic things, an aeroplane, a car, or a drone. Okay, and then itself doing and presenting, then taking 3D printout. Okay, this is what we want. Okay, and what's happening exactly? We humans, we know we are very intelligent. We learn from past experiences. We update our knowledge time to time. Okay, and we prevent making mistakes. Intentionally we make mistakes, but once we read somebody has done mistakes and this has happened, consequences, all this we know. So we prevent ourselves making mistakes by remembering what happened in the prehistory. Okay, but machines, they blindly follow the instructions given by us. You look at a small kid. First time when he see a fire, he will be with a great excitement, he'll try to touch the fire. But once he touches it, he understands it's very dangerous to touch the fire. So after that, he will never dare to touch the fire because he updated his knowledge. His database in the brain is updated by this new information. But machines are incapable of doing this. Okay, example, consider this Fibonacci generator. Run this generator for 1,000 times. Every single time when you run, it will start from the scratch. Now, after running 1,000 times, of course, it is very fast. It will give within fraction of second output. Now, make one small mistake and induce one small error. Ask it to run again, it will give error. In spite of seeing it 1,000 times, it is incapable of rectifying the mistake. Okay, so this is what happens. So, how to embed intelligence into the system so that it automatically rectifies, automatically does the work which human beings are doing, taking automatically its own decisions with much smarter than human beings. Okay, now what is happening in the research field? Of course, these days researchers are working really hard on developing tools that help to make a leap from passive to generative computers. So the computers are becoming more and more intelligent and it is moving from passive to generative, but still they are not intuitive. Generative design tools which are there in the they're available. These tools use computers and algorithms to synthesize geometry to come up with the new designs all by themselves. All it requires is your some target and your requirement constraints. Even though computers now can generate and have become generative and can come up with their own solution to some well-defined problems, they are not still intuition. The human intuitions what we have, they are lacking. So that is why they still start from the scratch every single time. And that is because they never learn. We humans, we pay attention. Whatever is there, we pay attention. We remember what happened. We retain and create pattern in our mind. In our mind, it is not simply seeing or simply looking at things. It is understanding it. It is understanding it creates a pattern in your mind. Interestingly, that's exactly what computer science scientists have been trying to get AI to do for the past 6 years or so years. So they're trying hard to embed this kind of intuition into the computer. If you go back into 1952, use tab.
Online class. Totally.
So if you go back into 1952, a computer was built that time that could play tic-tac-toe game, which was considered as a very it's a big deal at that time. Then it took 45 years, that is 45 years later, in 1997, Deep Blue, which beats Kasparov at chess. Okay, that time it was a big news. In 2011, you all know, Watson beats these two humans at Jeopardy, which was a American famous quiz program, which is much harder for a computer to play than chess is. In fact, rather than working from the predefined recipes as the chess, the predefined some paths are there. So rather than working on from predefined recipes, Watson had used reasoning to overcome is to beat human opponents. So reasoning has been embedded into the system. And then some time ago, DeepMind's AlphaGo that beats the world's best human player at Go, which is one of the most difficult games that we have. In fact, I have written in the slide also, this Go, which is why it is more difficult, that is because it has more possible moves than there are atoms in the universe. It is that complex. So what these researchers have done, they have embedded intuition into the system. There came the intuition into the system. So these programmers who have designed this AlphaGo, when AlphaGo is playing, they themselves don't know why it is making those moves. Okay, because it is guided by the intuition, not by the instructions, remember. So when intuition has been to some extent embedded inside this, the moves made by the AlphaGo, even programmers are wondering why exactly it is making the move. So finally, with that intuition, AlphaGo beats the player. So these things are actually moving really fast. I mean, consider in the space of human lifetime, the computers have gone from a child's game, that is a tic-tac-toe, to what is recognized as a pinnacle of strategic thought, that is the AlphaGo. Basically, now computers are moving from pure logic to intuition, towards the intuition. Now, see this picture. Would you cross this bridge? Most of you are thinking, oh no. And you arrived at a conclusion within a fraction of a second. Okay, why? Because you have that sort of knowledge in you that this kind of bridge is very unsafe, especially this rainy season. And that's exactly the kind of intuition our deep learning systems are starting to develop right now. Okay. So now one more thing, look at this picture, a car and a pothole. Okay. We have a smart cars, driverless cars, self-driving cars. Okay. Now, do you think a car, does it tell the city public work department that it has just hit a pothole or it has just seen a pothole at the corner of a Broadway? Will it do the complaint as humans do? So can we have such a system which automatically observes the surrounding and do the things what exactly a human being does? Okay. Now, what exactly is the problem? Why it is so hard? A simple answer I can say, we see pictures like this, but computer sees it like this. Okay. For computer, it is like this is the picture. Where is pothole, where is tire, and where is other things. So you can notice here artificial intelligence. It is a broad umbrella covering many sub areas. We have robotics, natural language processing, machine learning, neural networks, and computer vision. So under machine learning, you can notice supervised learning, and you know that supervised learning is a classification where different classes are labeled classes are there. You are trying to classify the object. Unsupervised is we identify, that is the birds of the same feather flock together. You try to find out the similar objects and put it together and may form the clusters, and then you categorize into clusters the new outcomes. Reinforcement there, this is like a trial and error, like we try to optimize something like an AlphaGo. We try to find an optimal path every time. Whenever there is a wrong move, there is a from a best move, we get a feedback. Okay, and then if there is any problem, again the reward and the punishment, all these things are there. So we are enforcing it to learn in a new scenarios. Okay, in a new environment, we are enforcing it to learn. Semi-supervised learning is the data set. It may have labels or partially it may not have labels. Okay, so this is what. So broadly, we can show all the areas like this, sub areas of artificial intelligence in one slide. Okay, only the major ones I have taken. How do I know whether I have arrived at super intelligent human-like computer? For that, there is a Turing test. This is a very famous test, very basic one. There is an interrogator here, and he is talking to a human and a computer. He is asking, he doesn't know whether human is left side or right side. He is in a closed room and he is keep on asking some questions, and both are giving some smart answers, replies, and he has to now judge based on the reply whether the reply is from a human or a reply is from a computer. Now, if he is unable to judge by the replies whether reply has come from human or a system, then we have achieved the smartest artificial intelligence system. That is, this computer should give smart answers, okay, similar to that of this human. Okay, that is what we are aiming at. That's called as a Turing test, important one. Okay, so now let us take first one of those sub areas, that is computer vision. You show this series of pictures to a 3-year-old boy. He will be able to describe this picture. Okay, so he will narrate the picture. He will say there is a cat sitting in the bed, it's in front of computer or laptop, and there is an elephant. Okay, sound TV. There is an elephant. There is an elephant and boy is petting the elephant, and you can see there is one more picture of airport. Okay, so there are a group of people gathered there. So a 3-year-old boy able to describe what he can see in the picture. Okay, so but computer will struggle. Now if I give this picture to computer and try to understand this picture, then it will be having really difficult to understand. We will see why exactly it is. So a small boy of 3-year-old, he might still have a lot to learn from this world. He has just seen a little about this world. Still lot more he has to learn from this world, but he's already become expert in one thing. He's already become expert in one important task. That is to make sense of what is he seeing. Okay, he is able to make sense what is he seeing. And our society, you know, it is more technologically advanced than ever. We send people to moon. We make phone which can talk to us. I just talk to a phone that will do the work for me. That is, I'm asking some questions to Siri or Cortana. So we talk to people. We send people to moon, or we have customized radios, customized newspaper, customized websites. So Everything we are, our society is technologically advanced so much, but still our computers are struggling to understand what exactly the picture is conveying. Okay, for example, here you see, this is one of the important sub area in computer vision, that is understanding the scene. Computer, when I give this scene, this is important for the robots. When robots is going out or when it is indoor, it has to understand what exactly it is seeing. It has to move and it has to do the task. So exact understanding of what it is seeing, that is instead of our eyes, biological eyes, robots have cameras. It will be capturing one by one picture, but captured picture, what exactly is there? Can it conclude based on that? So what is the process? So we give this picture to a robot or a computer. It should tell me whether it is an indoor or an outdoor scene, or is it a classroom, or is it a park. So what is the process? First of all, we need to segment the picture. Okay, to make computer understand, it is just a zeros and ones. I told you, it can see only that. It's a group of bits and bytes. So first of all, it has to segment the picture. This is called segmentation, and then comes the task of object recognition. It is trying to recognize an object. There is a street lamp, there are people, there is a banner, there are building. So then collectively it combines these things together. All the objects seen, it will collectively see and then then deduce, okay, this is an outdoor scene, because so many objects of outdoor are there. Okay, if it's a classroom, there will be desk, bench, blackboard, fan, something like that. So such a group of objects, they imply that it is a classroom. Okay, so this is what scene understanding is about. So this scene understanding is very important in most of the automated intelligence system. Now we will go for one more picture. This is not just identifying three objects. There are three humans. Okay, the objects are here, human beings. So there are three humans. Only if we understand that, it is not enough. We need to know who are they, what are they doing, etc. So the moment, even if you show this picture to a small child, he'll able to tell there are two men and one woman, and they are happy and they are laughing. Okay, so now how do we tell the computers? So how to tell the computer? First of all, there are three humans. Okay, how do you tell a computer that there are three humans? So we may tell, okay, fine, the model of a human is there are two eyes, one nose, and there is a mouth, and something like two hands, like this. Now computer is confused, because for monkey also you are given, for an ape also you are given the same description. That is also having two hands, face, and there are two ears, then nose, etc. So it cannot distinguish between an ape and a human. So it may confuse whether they are human, or still in the confusion. Okay, now next one. How to understand that there are two men and one woman? Okay, so it's easy for us, but what logic you have applied? How did you know that there are two men and one woman? We don't know the answer. Okay, we don't know, we just know it, that's all, but we don't know how our brain has identified it. What is that feature it has extracted that we cannot tell it? So it's difficult, it's very hard to explain computers that there are two men and one woman. You may say, okay, we can just look at the hair and we can describe the hair and say, computer, this is what. But it is not that. Even if this lady is having a hairstyle of this man who is sitting in the right of the screen, okay, still our senses, we will identify, our common sense immediately will identify that she is a female. Okay, so then expression analysis, it is much more tougher. We have to analyze the expressions, whether they're happy, sad. In a class, see, in this kind of webinar, I cannot see individually each person. Okay, so I will be looking at slide and explaining. Then if we have that system which can analyze everyone's facial expression, and if it tells me here percentage, that is 90% people are happy, 10% are unhappy, or if it's the other way, like 90% are unhappy, 10% are happy, then I'll immediately change the topic. Okay, so it should give me now and then the input, because right now I do not know whether you are happy or sad. I can see the photograph, all the three are very happy, so I can assume that everybody is happy. Okay, but I do not know actually whether you are happy with the presentation or not. How do I know? If the system automatically generates a report and keeps putting me here in terms of that pie chart, that this much percentage, 90% are unhappy, then I'll immediately understand, okay, I'm spending too much on machine vision, let me go to the next slide. Okay, so expression analysis, how did we analyze the expression? That is another important area of research. And you see here, I told you, to make computer understand the scene, we have to segment, we have to identify the object and so and so. Does that theory works here? Here, you cannot say, it's very difficult to segment because all the objects are cluttered. You cannot individually cut the objects. These are cluttered. So it becomes very difficult to segment itself. So segmentation stage itself, there will be a mistake. So you see this, what computer sees this, that's the difference. Here we will feel happy that, okay, looking at this particular picture, we feel happy. Okay, baby's picture. But system is saying this, whether will it feel happy? Are you feeling good looking at the second picture? So now, how do we, now let us say we successfully segmented. How do we recognize the object? What is the complexity in recognizing the object? Okay, so there is a template. I want to know whether in this picture there is a chair. Okay, so to check whether there is a picture, there is a chair in this picture. Okay, what will I do? I tell computer, okay, this is the chair. See, this is chair. Then computer will happily run this template. Oh, I'm sorry. It will happily run this template and it will immediately say, okay, there is a chair. Okay. So I gave the template and then it is identifying. It will just do the matching. Okay, it's a basic method. It's early days. This is a template matching method, the simplest one. Now, instead of I gave the template as this chair, now I'm telling, is there any chair? Computer will definitely say no, there is no chair. On the other hand, just tell the kid, this is the chair, you can sit here. Okay. Next time when you take him to showroom, he is seeing all these things for the first time, but still he will understand that all these are chair and without your permission, he will run and jump and sit on the chair. Don't you think so? How did he know all these are chair when computer is not able to understand? Because he is not doing that bit by bit matching. He is not doing bit by bit matching. The chair, some properties brain has captured and stored that will make him understand that all these are chairs. Okay, so no one tells the child. Do you tell the child, okay, this is this is that? No, no one tells the child that this is the chair, this is the object or something like that. So what he will do? He will have a model in his mind. Okay, he will just look at the object. His mind will create a small database or a big database. It will take all the interesting features and it will put it into the database. It will update its knowledge. Okay. So instead of focusing solely on better and better algorithm, we need to give importance to this kind of training set that a child is doing. Okay. So design a model rather than going for this algorithm is not working, another algorithm, better algorithm, more complex algorithm, analysis of algorithm, forget it. Go for a training data set which captures all the varieties of the chairs. Okay, like a child is doing. What child is doing? We have to design a model and then we have to train the system. Okay, so what exactly now I told you, the child, who will train the child? No one tells the child how to see, especially in the early years. When he is very small, nobody is telling him like seeing means like this you have to see. When you see the scene or a picture, you have to segment it, partition it, object recognition you have to do. Collectively, you have to collect all the objects and then decide which is this particular scene. Nobody is telling him the algorithm. We are not teaching in the algorithm to recognize the scene. Okay, they learn this through real world experiences and example. Okay, if you consider a child eye as a pair of biological camera, okay, child's eye, it is like for a robot it's a camera, for a child it is a biological camera. They take one picture in about every 200 milliseconds. Okay, every 200 millisecond, one picture is captured. Okay, whenever he makes an eye movement, he captures all the pictures, this biological eye. The pictures are not retained in the eye. It will be sent to the brain, processed. Okay, so by the age 3, okay, by the age 3, the child would have seen hundreds of millions of pictures of the real world. Okay, it is not we are putting 100 picture in the computer and telling these are the variations, go and find the new object. Okay, it's not 100, 200 pictures. A child by the age of 3, he might have seen hundreds of millions of pictures. Every picture, maybe a cat, the all different possible viewpoints, variations of that particular cat. Okay, so he will be having very large data set in his brain, and any object he see, because of that knowledge, he will immediately have, along with that, he is also having the intuition. Okay, if it is this is something like this, means it is this. So intuition is also there. So he is able to identify. So what we can do at what exactly researchers have done is they have collected all possible varieties. One chair, it may have infinite number of variations. Cat, let us say cat. How many different angles you can capture a cat? Okay, a cat, it may be, there may be an occlusion, they're partially visible, and different poses, different expressions. So we put all the training set into the system and we model it. And we say something like this is a cat. Okay, so what exactly we are putting? Are we putting the entire picture into the system? We just say, after all, the cat is, this is like early model. It's not exactly the very new one, for just to understand that for the beginners I'm telling you. So you can, this is one of the method. You can say, oh, cat is nothing but a collection of shapes and some color. Okay, so I can say if something is there with this color and this kind of shape, and then it is a cat. Okay, I hope everything is fine. There is no problem at all in my presentation. Vinci, everything, is it fine? Vinci, can you hear me?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, fine. I'll go ahead then.
Yeah, ma'am, it's fine.
Okay. So I say this is cat. Okay, one circle, face is like round and so and so. So, and some color information I'll put. Okay, what is this? Okay, this I just put for to show you that Google has come out. You have seen this. Google has come out with smart reply. Okay, when you are replying also, that subject, if you type something in the compose part, then automatically it will be knowing what should be the title. And if you forget to put an attachment, then it will remind you. So it will have suggestions for the reply. So some mail has come, so it is telling you these are the possible suggestions you can reply with. Okay, so this is the a smart reply which is there with the Google. So you must have seen this. This is known as Google Lens. Okay, when you are traveling and if you are looking for some restaurant, just point your camera or a mobile to that particular restaurant. Immediately it will tell you what exactly the properties of that. Just show the Google Lens or the mobile towards a plant, then immediately it will tell you the properties of the plant. This is one of the important project by Google. So its database is very huge, and it is capable of identifying, because see, in this particular thing, it's immediately telling you the restaurant name and other details. That is because it knows by that Google map, it knows where exactly GPS tells the system where exactly you are located and what are the possible restaurant and other landmarks over there. So by that information will extract and tell you. And you can see here the another important thing is, like, if you have some noisy picture like this, it is enhanced. These are all part of this computer vision, and you can see your maybe child or whatever daughter. If there is a very important picture with some abstraction, then you can just use and do this. So these are the tools which are provided. which help us to make our lives better. So one more thing is not only that segmenting and adding and all those things, many times the context based information is also very important. Look at this particular thing. What is this? We say it is 13. Okay, so we say it is 13 because we understood it is 12, this side it is 12, this is 14, so it must be 13. So this is known as based on the context. Now, if you ask a small kid, what is this? Provided he knows how to read, then he will immediately say, you won't say it is 13. Earlier it was, you would have said it is 13, and now he will definitely say this is B. What made him to change his conclusion? That is because he has the context-based knowledge. He has the context-based knowledge. Okay, so I just wanted to show you some objects, and I just wanted to tell you about one simple method which can easily classify. Okay, so we need to recognize the object. So the human tendency to recognize the object, it is not like every minute details we are going to capture and then we are going to decide that, you know, like when first time you are reading a new language, every letter you will read. For example, the line here, no need of color. So I will read N, O, then I'll combine together and I say no. Then I say N, E, E, D, N, E, need. So like that I read. But eventually I won't be reading all the letters in a word. I will be reading so fast. How is it possible? Because I just see the first and last letter and the combination, and then our brain, it will understand, okay, this is the word, and that makes us read it very fast. So one of the human tendency to identify the objects is seeing the shape. So most of the time, most of the image analysis application, shape-based analysis, that is just shape of the object is enough to distinguish. For example, this, just seeing the shape, I can understand what exactly it is, what class it is belonging to. Okay, now if you use this particular shape, then let us say 500 into 600 dimension. The dimension is 500, 600. So instead of storing entire 500 into 600 dimension picture, I can go for a simple method where I will reduce it to a skeleton. So instead of taking the entire picture, I take the skeleton, which is just a vector. Rather than matrix, I have now moved to the vector, because the training set, it is not one object. Training set will be having so many classes of object, all possible objects present in the world, and each class will be having so many variations. I told you that one single chair you take, it will be having so many viewpoints and so many variations. So every class has so many objects. So it is very much important that I extract features. The features are representing a small set. So when I say skeleton, it will just take, and it is, you know, you see most of the applications, it works well and fine, because the skeleton of different objects are different. Of course, I just giving this example, this is not the optimal. There are so many cases where the skeletons are same but the objects are different, and there are so many cases where skeletons are different but the object is same. So as an example, like how exactly the algorithm works, I just showed this example because for the beginners, this kind of simple examples will make them understand what is the underlying task. Okay. So what is this? So is it enough if I just have a black and white picture with some skeleton? No. Now you see, just the shape is there or the skeleton, you can say it is there, but I can't understand whether it's a sun, ball or walnut. For that, I need color and the texture, all these informations. So the moment I process color image, it is not one dimension. I will be having 3 matrices. That is, there will be 3 planes, RGB or HSV. So 3 into that matrix size. 3 into matrix size. Look at that. The earlier, what was the features? Now it is 3 into that feature. Okay, the feature space is triple the moment you embed color. Now, okay, fine. Yeah. Now you can see here in this picture, there is a boy, he is very happy. Okay, so we can understand, okay, he is very happy, but how do we know that boy is very happy? Okay, that is the question. Now, most of the time, sometimes computer will make a mistake. For example, let us say I have trained a computer with the different objects, and I have not all possible. I have put it in the training set, but I have not put a toothbrush into the training set. Okay, but I have at the same time I have put a baseball bat in the training set. Now, when computer sees this picture, it will falsely recognize this as a baseball bat. It will say baby is holding a baseball bat. Okay, another thing here. Assume that you have a database with the human objects, human class, and you have a database with the horse and all possible animals. Now, if you give this picture to a computer, it will say a man is riding a horse in the middle of a street next to the building. This is what the narration will give. Okay. But if you show the same thing, if I call my son now and I ask him what is this, he will immediately tell that is a statue. Okay. But how do you now tell computer that it is a statue and it is not a human? So see what kind of information your brain has captured to deduce that it is a statue. So this is what capability of our brain. Now, computer vision, okay, it's not only about describing a picture, video, and other things. And we are not only, I told you so far, give a picture to computer, it will segment, it will do the object recognition, and finally it will tell is the outdoor or indoor. Is it only enough if we embed such information? Assume that your robot is now become expert. It has learned like a child. Okay, it has taken pictures. It is now immediately identifying the objects and telling, okay, this is so and so, and it's become expert in identifying the scenes. But that is not the only thing which we do in computer vision. Okay, this is one more picture I wanted to show you. Look at this. Can computer identify a difference between first picture and the second picture? We can understand, but what exactly will be the reaction of a computer? It will definitely do the misclassification. If you put more information about texture, color, and some information like 2 eyes, nose, mouth, some hair, like that and all, it will be definitely confused. Okay, so what is VR? Computer vision is not just building a robot or a software which can understand the scene, but it is much more. Our brain can do much more things. The moment we embed that information of understanding the scene, it did not become a robot, did not become a human being, equivalent to a human being. Look at this picture and try to understand how capable we are. Okay, how capable we are? Look at this picture and tell me what you see. There are so many things explicitly given. That is, there is a misaligned railway track, there are 6 men, there are trees, bushes, tunnel, okay, hill, everything is there, tools are there, right? So we explicitly, whatever is there, it will computer also now segment and assume that it will segment and understand, okay, this much is there. Now our brain, it will be far beyond this explicit description. Okay, so the moment you see, you can observe that there are 2 teams. Okay, is it written in the picture? There are 2 teams? No, it is not written in the picture. There are 2 teams. If I tell now computer, okay, go for some hi-fi classification or hi-fi clustering technique, maybe a simple k-means or k-midoids. So if you try to tell computer, ask computer, assume that segmentation problem is over, it successfully 100% segmented, it identified the objects correctly like a bush, tree, this, that, everything. Next step, assume that now we are asking computer, okay, tell me how many teams are there. It will definitely do the misclassification, misclustering. See, these 2 people are together. These 2 people, the distance is small. Okay, compared to the distance between this person and this person, this distance is small. So definitely, computer may cluster this as this is one team, this is another team. Actually, these 2 are looking like enemies. So, but it will say these two are friends and it is one category. So it may say there are 3 groups, or it may say there are only 1 group. If I give the threshold high, it may say there is only 1 group, but you could understand that there are 2 teams. What algorithm has been run in order to identify that there are 2 teams? Okay, so next, it's not just identifying 2 teams. You can even identify beyond that. You can identify, though these people are, this is not a real photo of a man. Okay, this is just a cartoon. See the nose and other body organs, body parts. It's not same as the photo what we see. Okay, but still we could identify that there are 6 men. We could identify that there are 2 teams. We could identify that there are 2 people who are arguing. Not to, how do you know it is arguing? How to tell the computer in terms of program? Like this means it is arguing, like this means it is happy. It's difficult. Okay, so and first of all, this is cartoon, not even a human expression. Okay, then you know the reason also for the argument. What is the reason for the argument? Computer doesn't know anything, because computer does first of all finding very difficult to understand there are people. Okay, now we understand beyond that. We know there are 2 people are arguing. We know why they are arguing. Why they are arguing? Even if I call my son and ask him why they are arguing, he'll tell there is a misaligned railway track. So they are blaming each other. One team is telling the team lead, and another thing we identify, these 2 are team leaders. How do you know they are team leaders? Is it written here, team leaders? No, nothing. Without any information, our brain is so intelligent. It is connecting the dots. It is connecting the dots and telling so many. It is weaving the stories. Sometimes we unnecessarily we start weaving the stories, and we misunderstand many things, many situations. Okay, that is a negative part of that, but let us concentrate only on the positive part. So we know why they are arguing. We know that there is a problem, so this guy is blaming him, and beyond that, implicit deductions by our brain. We know these 2 people are standing idle. They are just standing as if they are watching some drama. See, this guy is very curious to know what may happen next. They are not bothered. Okay, so our brain is capable of observing so many things, and it is now I can write a 2-page story only here. So that is the capability of our brain. Moreover, our brain does conclusion also. What conclusion? Why these people are simply standing? They are part of this team. They also can fight. These 2 also can fight. Okay, the reason is these team leaders, they have taken their own decision to construct this. They just instructed these people, ordered these people, and asked them to do. They have not considered these team members' help to decide. So in the decision making part, team members are not joined the team leader. That is why they are not bothered. They are simply thinking, okay, it's not our problem. That is why these 2, see, our brain is concluding now. It came to the conclusion part. So our brain is saying, okay, these 2 are bad leaders. Why they are bad leaders? First of all, they have committed this mistake. One thing. Second thing, they are upon that they are arguing. You. Okay, they are arguing. He is telling you have done the mistake and so on. So instead of rectifying mistakes and accepting. Thirdly, looking at the expression of the team members, we can understand they are really bad. Team leaders are really bad, because these people are not bothered, means they are not considered. So the teamwork is not seen here. So the conclusion of the picture is 2 teams are there. The team leaders are not good team leaders, because teamwork is missing and they arrived at a wrong solution. So this is the kind of conclusions our brain makes, but it is very difficult to make a system, give a picture, making it to weave a story, making it to come out with a story. So story building is another thing. Narrating a picture is very difficult. It's very difficult to embed. So intuition is required. So intuition is needed. It has to understand that, okay, this means maybe it is like this, maybe. Okay, we go for we do a lot of assumptions. Okay, so the boy is very happy. Okay, fine. We are seeing, can a computer feel the happiness in boys? Can computer feel and respond? we are feeling happy because boy is happy. Maybe some cake is there, his birthday, and he is wearing a new T-shirt probably. Or see story, our brain starts story, building stories. But computer is seeing this set of numbers, lifeless numbers. What these numbers convey? So what are we up to? What are we up to? We have prototyped cars that can drive by themselves, but without smart vision. We have self-driving cars, but no smart vision. They cannot really tell the difference. You know, the cars which are driverless car, which are used in military or any other the normal people who are using. So these cars, okay, they cannot really tell the difference between a crumble paper bag on the road, which can be run over, and a rock of the same size which should be avoided. Okay, so we have the common sense. When we see a crumble paper bag, we understand, okay, this can be run over. But at the same time, if we see a rock or a sharp object, we will stop. We will understand that it should be avoided. Okay, so this is what happens. But smart cars, are they able to distinguish that, okay, this can be run over or this can be avoided? We have made fabulous megapixel cameras, very high resolution cameras, but we have not delivered sight to the blind. Drones can fly over massive land, but we don't have vision technology to help us to track the changes of rainforest. Security cameras are there everywhere in your college. Look at the security cameras. What is the amount of data it is generating? Huge amount of data it is generating, and server is running out of memory. So security cameras are everywhere, but they do not alert when a child is drowning in a swimming pool. If we see a child is drowning in a swimming pool, our reaction will be different. But cameras are capturing everything. Do they alert when a child is drowning? More work has to be done in this particular area. Okay, photos and videos are becoming integral part of our life. How many photos in this webinar? Me and you, we are part of this webinar. We are contributing to that data. We are flooding data. We are contributing to the data, because I'm sure Vinci is either she is going for the live stream, or if not, she is recording this. Okay, what is she doing? She's recording it, and so now many participants might have taken some photos. Okay, I myself might take some photos. So we are contributing more and more data. Every day we use different social medias. Okay, we read something, we store, and all these things. So we are contributing so much of data, but all this data, they cannot talk themselves. Okay, in spite of all the advances taken place in science and technology, our most advanced software is still struggling to understand this enormous content. Okay, so though enormous content is there, everything is there, our smart system, the society is advanced so much, as I told you, but our the smartest devices are still struggling to understand what it is capturing, what it is seeing, and because these softwares are very much blind. So the society, the technologically speaking, the society we are very much blind, because our smartest machines are still blind. Okay, seeing is different, understanding is different. Okay, so our smartest machines are blind, so we are blind now. Okay, so I told you why is it so, because what computer sees and what we see, there is a difference. So cameras will take pictures like this. Okay, cameras will take high resolution picture like this. They convert light into two-dimensional array of numbers known as pixels. That you study when you study the basics of computers, it knows. We know that two-dimensional array of pixels will be created and stored, so and so. But these are just lifeless numbers. They do not carry meaning in themselves. So lack of meaning in these pixels make our system struggle so much. Okay, just like to hear is not same as to listen. Hearing is different and listening is different. To take picture is not same as seeing. Robots, it has a cameras. It will keep on taking pictures. CC cams, it will keep on taking pictures, capturing video, everything. It is not giving an alert when a boy is drowning. The reason is capturing picture is not same as seeing. Okay. By seeing, we really mean understanding. We have to understand. It is not only eyes. It's not just our eyes are seeing and understanding. The signals will be sent to brain. So developing a visual processing apparatus of our brain is not eyes themselves. Vision begins with eyes. Vision is beginning with eyes, but it truly takes place in the brain. To teach computer to see, we want to teach the machines to see just like we do. Okay. We have to tell them how human beings are seeing, how they are processing. For that, we have to understand our algorithm, which is there in our brain. What reactions, what kind of process is taking place, how the signal is moving to the brain, what kind of process is exactly going on, that has to be reflected into the system. And it has to capture the emotions also. For example, a boy is very happy. So it has to capture that emotions. It's not only taking a picture, just identifying, okay, this is a human being and this is a plant. It's not that. It's not just narrating a scene saying there is a boy and this is outdoor scene. It is much more about that. It is not just telling, okay, boy is happy. It is beyond that. The story developing, story building, like how we did in the case of that particular picture of teamwork with the misaligned railway track. How did we come to a conclusion? So it is not enough if you embed implicit information. We have to explicit this one. We have to make it understand, deduce, conclude, which are very much challenging. That is why lot of scope is there for the research in this particular areas. And we know this is data visual. Vinci, how much time is there for me? Vinci, how much time is there for me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, 25 minutes more.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. So data visualization. So we spoke so much about machine vision, and we spoke about some pictures, and the videos are same. Okay. So videos is nothing but a series of pictures. So the moment you capture a keyframe and then you try to analyze it, it is nothing but a image. Okay, but still the technologies or the algorithms which we develop for videos and images, it is not exactly same. There will be some difference. When you actually work on that, you will understand. So it is not about only images and whatever. So far we saw that videos. It is also with the data. We have lots of text data, especially. So the text data can be a structured, unstructured, or it may be a semi-structured. The example for structured data is the Excel sheet, where we have some tables and name, roll number, all those things. Many students are there, so that is why I thought of starting from the scratch. So we have that kind of tabular data is a structured data, and unstructured means the textbook, whatever you are having, set of text. The text, whatever is there in a text document. There is no structure in that, so that is unstructured. And what is a semi-structured? Semi-structures are, example, your emails. There is the top part, that is we have to address, subject, BCC, CC, all those things, they are structured, very, very well structured. But the compose part, it is unstructured. We are just typing some text and so and so, that is unstructured. So, there is a large corpus of data. We have data warehouses, and we are going for data mining. Even in degree college students, they know what is data mining. It is a part of their syllabus. So, lots of data is who is generating this data. That is called as a big data. Okay. So, lot of social media, they are contributing lot of data. Supermarkets, mobile devices, healthcare, retail, and financial services. Sensor technologies, it's everyday captures a lot of data. This is cameras, and these sensor technologies, they will send the streams of data. So lot of data getting into the system. A bank, everyday transactions are recorded, and the supermarket everyday everything is recorded, customer information and the product, etc. So all this data, if we just store it in a warehouse and keep quiet, this data cannot talk itself, and it cannot itself give the insight into what is stored there. So we need powerful algorithms, analysis tools, which can debug, which can go through this data, and it can present us the results, okay, in the form of pie chart or some chart, which is very much easy for us to analyze. Because as a human beings, we have, though our brain is very much intelligent, smart, all those things, intuitions, everything, we are lacking in some areas. Our brain, it cannot easily process all these numbers, and lot many data we cannot keep on reading. For example, bank transactions, okay, terabytes of data is there. If I appoint one person to go through it and then conclude, give me the conclusion, it's very difficult for him. It may take long time, first of all, and as he move towards the later part of the data, he may forget what he has seen so far. Okay, so yeah, of course, forgetting is the blessing, but still here sometimes it becomes a curse. So it will keep on, there is a prone to error also. Human beings, we are prone to errors, so there may be a mistake in concluding. Okay, but if you have a IFI tool, like data mining tools, what they do is it will just go through all the data within no time, and then it will identify the hidden patterns. The hidden patterns, it will get the information and give us, so the information can be used to take smart decisions, and it will identify the hidden patterns and tell us. For example, in a market, we will get to know what are the items of high demand, what are the items which do not have demand. So location wise, it varies based on the pattern, buying pattern of the people. It varies according to, I mean, lifestyle of the people, the city people or the remote village. The requirements are different. So where exactly our new manufacturing unit should be constructed, or where exactly, what products exactly need to be promoted, what are the, which areas, all these things has to be decided immediately by the top managers. So these tools help them to come out with the conclusion. In healthcare, there will be malignant or non-malignant tissues. It is very difficult to understand whether it's a cancerous or not. So based on the prehistory, or based on the already seen patient data, the system has to come out with the conclusion whether a person is having a malignant or non-malignant, what kind of, whether it's a cancerous or non-cancerous. That decision has to be done. When a person comes to a bank, a decision immediately has to be taken by the manager based on the prehistory of the pre-stored data, whether the loan can be given for a person or not. So it uses a set of classification techniques, clustering techniques, prediction algorithms. It will use to predict. It will take, there are two things. One is analyzing and taking the decision making, and then predicting the future. Okay, so all these sources are generating data, and the data we don't have, I mean, large amount of data is there in the servers or the warehouses. Now, that is about text data. And another thing is the difficulty in processing text data. Please give me a minute, just a minute, just give me a minute, please. I'm sorry, there was some disturbance. That's why I had to stop. Okay. Any problem is there? Please let me know. I hope you can see my slides now. Okay. So we'll see what are the difficulties in processing text data. So this is like old version of Google. Just for illustration example, I just wanted to tell you. This is Google Translator. So there is a sentence, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So we are actually willing to do something, but our physics, it is not allowing us to do the things. So this sentence, if you put it in this particular Google Translate, and if you translate it to Russian language and then you translate back, this is a old version I told you, not now. The old version of Google, if you translate it to Russian and then back to the English, then this particular sentence, the entire meaning has been changed. This is actually famous biblical sentence. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. But the translated version will be having, the vodka is good, but the meat is rotten. That is because word by keyword translation. The old version of Google, it just take two dictionaries, translate the word by word, and then translate it back. So that is the kind of thing. But from that, it has moved to now more sophisticated context-based search translation. And now if you put the same query, you just put the query, the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak, in the Google Translator, it will give much more similar answer for this. If you translate Russian or any language and come back, the meaning won't be altered. Okay, that is the improvement has been made in this kind of tools. But still, all the problem has it been solved. So ask some questions to the Google. Should I go to Mangalore or Bangalore for the higher studies? Is it raining in Mangalore? Like this. So should I go to Mangalore or Bangalore for the higher studies? It will try to give you answer. Okay, it is not, it is just taking keywords or whatever. It is trying to some extent, it is trying to understand what is the context and what is the question you are posing. So, there are some questions, the question answer, you can see people also ask. So that kind of conversation will be stored. So it will present that also. So here something is the East Bangalore good place to study, which is something similar to the query what you have made. So you can notice how it is day by day becoming smart. Okay, but still the direct question is not there. Is it raining in Mangalore? It is trying to answer you by giving some temperature. It is identifying the keyword. But still much more has to be done. If you ask now, this is the one of the important query to understand what is the limitation of your Google. I want to know what is the best way if I want to travel from Delhi to Bombay. Okay, where I am traveling? I want to travel from Delhi to Bombay through Allahabad. My constraint is, there is a constraint through Allahabad. Another constraint is lowest cost. Okay, a few database students of mine may be here. So there are the database constraints you are putting like that. Here there is a constraint. So lowest cost and through Allahabad. What is the best way if I want to travel from Delhi to Bombay through Allahabad with the lowest cost? This I'm trying to ask. You ask this to Siri, Cortana, or Google, whatever the smart assistants you have. What answer it will give? Will it give you the correct answer? So it will just, it is unable to understand the semantics. It is unable to understand the context. It is unable to understand what exactly you are meaning by that sentence. Okay, so because the processing sentence is not that easy. How difficult it was to process a picture you have seen. How difficult it is to process data, big data. It is, I mean, you might be knowing. But it's a similar way, natural language processing is also too difficult. So it will simply identify some keywords like a travel, Delhi, Bombay, this. It will write, it will think that you are planning to go somewhere. So it will give you some flight ticket, make my trip or something like that. It is, this answer may not be same for everybody, because if you recently booked that flight ticket using make my trip, then it will show this. Okay, if you have booked recently, excuse me, if you have booked recently a ticket via train, okay, then it will go to that page and show you the train tickets. Okay, if you have recently booked bus or sleeper coach or whatever, those websites it will show. Look at that, it is not as dumb as we are thinking, but it has become more smart. It has improved so much. It is identifying every click of yours. It is capturing what are your interests. That is why it is giving this. If you have booked Make My Trip recently, then it will give that. Okay, that is your every click is recorded by the agent Google search engine which is running over there. It will understand what is your interest. It will try to understand what kind of person you are based on your interest. There will be different categories of people. So it will categorize you as so and so. That is why when you go to some website, you will get some pop-ups. Those pop-ups will be very much similar to the previous history of your search. Okay, for example, if you have searched for IAS exam or NET exam, then wherever you go, that kind of ads will pop up. Okay, so it will try to help you. It is not trying to, do some, what is that? It is not trying to trace you, but it is trying to help you. If you go to Amazon, there are recommendation systems. It will tell it based on the previous customer's history. For example, if you buy a book, something like recently I tried to buy a book called Sita. Okay, so it is telling me, okay, those people who bought this book, they have also bought some other books like Rama, Ravana. There are different versions of the Ramayana. Okay, so it is telling me to buy these books, recommendation system. And in Facebook, just upload your picture with some other people. Immediately it will identify the face, it will do the face recognition. It will run the face recognition system. Okay, if I upload my picture with Vinci in the Facebook, immediately it will try to tag Vinci because it will search in my friend list. It will try to identify whose face it is. It is identifying Vinci and it is trying to tag her. Okay, that to tell her that Bharti Pillar has uploaded your picture. Okay, sometimes what happens, the face recognition system will fail and it will try to tag somebody else. If you upload a group picture, in that someone, if it is little bit resembling some other person, it will try to tag them. Okay, so that is because the error, everything is not 100% working, So there will be a small error gap. Okay, so that error will be shown in the tagging. The tagging system is actually that a smart system which is trying to do the face recognition, look at the database and trying to identify who is this person in the group along with you. Okay, so that's what improvements I was talking about. So spell checker, I told you prior to this, our child is not, when we are reading, we are not reading everything. Okay, this is a different example. Sorry, I thought I have put one more example. Okay, so this is a simple spell checker. So you put this text into the spell checker and see whether it will identify a spelling mistake. It will not identify any spelling mistake, though there are so many mistakes. Fifth standard kid, she can tell, okay, that this is a mistake, there's a mistake and all, but the system cannot tell. In spite of having a large training data set, it fails to identify the mistakes here. The reason is the semantics are not understood. We are still not using context sensitive grammar, we are using context free grammars. Okay, context sensitive grammars, based on the context, the semantics has to be understood, the domain has to be understood. There are so many things that has to be embedded in order to make it correctly, identify the spell mistakes. Ambiguity in the words, if you have attended my last session, I have given talk in some other webinar. Okay, so if you have attended that, then this will be a repetition for you. Maybe one or two student of mine might be present in that as well as this. And anyway, there is no guarantee. I'm not sure whether they are here. So this is one of the important example, ambiguity in words. I will take another 10 minutes or so. Okay, don't worry. So ambiguity in words. I went to bank to see the sunset. It's such a simple sentence, any kid can understand. I went to the bank to see the sunset. There is no ambiguity at all for us. But for computer, it will try to read. I went to bank. Immediately it will be in tension. It will be in tension. Bank is it a financial institution? Is it a land next to the river? Is it a depend, the keyword? I banked on him. Okay, so that is a verb. So it is unable to identify what is this bank because the context information missing. The prehistory is missing. The domain knowledge is missing, right? I told you a 3-year kid will be having several hundred millions of information in his mind, photo, like the text is also there. Okay, that is why he is able to identify rightly what exactly that picture is. Okay, so here the same thing happens. So it unable to understand what is this. So embed context information. Tell that the grammar is something like this. Already went is a verb, so bank cannot be a verb. Give that rule. The moment you give the rule, next time it will understand, okay, depend cannot be there. So it will rule out this third one, control P. So this is ruled out now after giving contextual knowledge. Okay, so but still it is now having confusion. After giving contextual knowledge also it is unable to decide is it money or river bank. So give domain knowledge. What is the domain knowledge? We have the domain knowledge. That is why we are concluding bank to see the sunset means it's a river bank. We are concluding based on the domain. So give the same domain knowledge to the computer. So sunset is related to the sea. Okay, domain. What is the domain of sunset? It is sea. So this bank must be a river bank. Okay, so I am seeing now domain. I am checking the domain of words and then I am concluding. Okay, so problem seems to be solved, right? We are happy. Okay, finally after embedding this in one rule, the rule means the contextual knowledge, and I embedded some domain knowledge saying sunset is a domain of ocean and that is a bank, like that. So river bank. So it will identify, it will understand this sentence. Over. Is the problem solved? We will see some more. So does the domain knowledge of this sort and context knowledge of that sort will solve my problem? The bank near the river loaned him $100. So what is the domain of this bank? There is a river, also there is a money. Okay, in the previous example, I told the computer, if sentence has money, then this bank is financial institution. If sentence has sunset or something related to ocean, then it is river bank. But here, both are there. There is a river which is belonging to the ocean domain or the river bank, something like that. This is another domain. Money is financial institution. So this it will fail to understand. What about this? The bank is eroding and the bank has given the city the money to repair it. There is a bank here. There is one more bank here. So here, if it successfully classifies one bank, it is enough. Okay. Now, here, even if it classifies, assume that something you have done, looking at eroding and money, something it does, some priority, rank, all those things it will do, and it will classify still. It cannot classify two banks into two different classes. It will classify both. It is same. Both of these are same, no, for that. So it will classify it to either the domain of financial institution or the domain of ocean. Okay. So this is what. So more complex sentences. Then the prehistory. And I told you, see, in the computer vision, I'm going to stop in 5 minutes. Okay. So in computer vision, we have seen that example of two teams misaligned railway track, how our brain is good in creating stories over stories. Okay. Okay. We concluded, we created stories, concluded, did everything, deduced. Now, same thing we do with the text also. It is not only picture, with the text also we are good in building stories. We are able to read between the text. We are able to imagine the things. Okay. So let us see what is the difference between a computer processing the text and a human processing the text. First, it will read this. We are also reading. Computer is also reading. When the balloon touched the light bulb, it broke. It is actually, though the word broke is given, still we will know what is broke. We will be knowing balloon is broke. They are not given burst. They are given broke purposely. Okay. But still we won't associate this broke with the bulb. Our brain is good enough to associate that broke keyword with the balloon, and it is understanding that balloon must have burst. Okay. Now, computer, what is happening with computer? Computer will read this: when the balloon touched the light bulb, it broke. So it cannot understand what is it. What is it? It cannot understand because the prehistory is not there. Previous things it is not remembering. Assume that it understood and it it understood. Okay, that it is trying to process now it. Now it is having a confusion. Is it bulb or is it balloon? Okay. We understood balloon is broken or burst, but computer is now unable to understand when the balloon touched the light bulb, something broke. What is broke? It is unable to understand because it doesn't know that, doesn't have that common sense that bulb is not the one which is breaking, but the balloon will be breaking when balloon touches the bulb. And our brain immediately concluded also. What is that conclusion? Our brain immediately said, maybe that light bulb is hot, that is why balloon burst. Okay, conclusion is already made, but it is not that easy for the computer to conclude. It is now in the dilemma. What is it? Is it a bulb or balloon? So it doesn't have a clear idea which one broke. Second sentence. This caused baby to cry. This is totally, it becomes impossible for that. Because the previous sentence is processed and it is over. This is done. Every single time computer is starting from the scratch. I told this sentence in the machine vision. Okay, this caused the baby to cry. What is this? Which one? This is the light bulb, because this balloon is burst, that caused the baby to cry. So it is unable to communicate this to this. Okay. So it now doesn't know, first of all, what is broke. Now it is doesn't know why baby is crying. But we know the answer. We narrated much more. Previous history is there. We have domain knowledge. See, how did we conclude that balloon has burst, not the bulb broken? Because of domain knowledge. We know balloon is very delicate. Bulb will become hot. So all those domain knowledge we have. Okay. So Mary gave John a dirty look and picked up the baby. Okay. Now see how capable our brain is. Who is Mary and John? You have the answer. Who is Mary and John? You immediately will tell baby crying. Mary gave a dirty look to John. That means Mary and John are the parents of that baby. And Mary has given the dirty look to John. That means, what is the meaning of that? Mary and John must be husband and wife. Is there any dictionary in this world where dirty look implies husband and wife? Have you read any dictionary where somebody giving dirty look means they are husband and wife? Nobody taught you that giving a dirty look implies husband and wife. Or giving a dirty look implies anger. Nobody told you. Nowhere in the dictionary it is present, but still our brain immediately, based on some context, prehistory, domain knowledge, experience, it understood that, okay, John must be husband of Mary. That is why she gave dirty look. They must be parents of the baby. Those informations are not explicitly given. Unless and until the information is explicitly given, computer becomes very difficult to process it. Okay. So, though we have never seen dirty look means husband and wife, dirty look means anger, etc., still we could able to understand that. Was anyone angry? Yes, we say. Mary is angry because the dirty look told us many stories. Many stories, just the word dirty look, which nowhere exists in the dictionary telling so many things, but our brain created its own dictionary and it concluded that their husband and wife, she is angry, so and so. And we also know why Mary should give John a dirty look, because maybe John is the reason for baby to cry. John is reason for baby to cry. That is not given there, but I understood. How I understood? Because I am intelligent. I am smart. That's why I could understand. If you have understood, you are also smart. Okay, fine. So see, so many questions. John shrugged and picked up the balloon. This shrugged, one word, and picked up the balloon. tells all the story for us. Which one got broke? We know. Who cried? We know. Was anyone angry? Computer is struggling there. Our smartest device is struggling there to understand. But we have understood. Okay. Was anyone angry? We know. Did John care? We know. Was John concerned? We know the answer. For everything we are, this is what in schools we read the passage and write the answers. Was the light bulb hot? This is implied inference. Nowhere it is given light bulb is hot. That is implied inference our intelligent brain has concluded, because light bulb is broken, I mean balloon is broken, maybe it is hot. Okay, this is important. It is very difficult to make a smartest device to learn this kind of implied inference. Still deeper inference. Who is responsible for baby to cry? Nowhere given, but we know. Why? Mary gave John dirty look. That told all story to us. Though we are reading this first time. Okay. Though we don't know who is Mary, who is John, who is that baby, where this is happening, nothing we know, but we know deeper inferences has been done. So domain knowledge, deeper understanding, all these things are required. Along with that, how to embed all these things? We need to write some scripts. One of the simplest method is writing drama-like scripts, but it is very difficult. What is drama-like scripts? When we see one bulb, our brain knows 1,000 things about bulb. Okay, a small 3-year-old kid, the moment you say bulb, its brain is having lots of information about bulb. Okay, so that drama we have to write. We have to tell bulb means it will be something like this, which will be invented by so and so. That also we know. What is the structure of that? What is it is used for? Okay, and everything, all the details have to embed, and we have to tell it will become hot, or when we switch on, that bulb will glow, something like that. All possible stories we know about bulb, we have to embed. How is it? Yes. Yes.
Can you conclude?
Yeah, it's almost concluded. Only one slide left out, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, fine. Thank you. So that bulb information. So for every word we have to write. For all possible in a book, how many words are there? For all possible words, you have to write a drama-like strip. Second one is semantic frames. That is embedding information for the every word in the form of frames. Okay, this I told you. This is nothing but why NLP is difficult, because of the same statement as the previous sentences. Okay, so there are many new new words getting into the system, the language, unfriend, retweet, something like that. New words getting added, and here you see New York, the segmentation problem here. New York, it should not be York News. Okay, so segmentation problem. Then idioms, dark house conveys a different meaning. Times New Roman, that conveys a different meaning. So the different applications are the speech to speech, speech to text, text to speech. Okay, all these things. Now, NLP based softwares, I already mentioned you, Siri, Cortana, OK Google, and you know the limitations of that. Some expert systems, that is, it is getting the from the data, it is giving you the summary. Then report generation, that is assistant, text summarization, indexed search. During the the index search is very important. So what are the applications of AI? If someone asks you, AI is everywhere. Everywhere it is. So some people, this is the last slide. Some people nowadays, so many opinions, and you might have listened to so many audios or videos, people saying it is dangerous. AI is a threat for a humankind. Human beings will be destroyed by the computer. This and so many movies have come. So in another way, if you think in terms of cognitive enhancement, rather than thinking about negative aspect, instead of thinking how smart can we make our systems, okay, if you say how smart we can make our systems, then you will be having the fear that one day systems will become smarter and it will destroy humankind. You ask a question, how smart can our machines make us? Because ultimately we are using those machines. Our cognitive enhancement is taking place. Okay, we are augmented with the machines and cognitive enhancements. So how smart can our machines make us? So machines are making us smarter. So we are getting benefits. So in this way, positively, if you think, you can understand what is the need for more research into that particular area. So I'm concluding now. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box or chat window of Google Meet or WhatsApp group. I will answer it later because I think it's already time. All truths are easy to understand once they are discovered. The point is to discover them. Once somebody discovers something, it is easy for us, but discovering ourselves is difficult. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Parvati Pilla, for your valuable words of knowledge. Your deep knowledge in the subject is highly appreciated. I
Thank you.
once again thank our principal, Reverend Sister Cherkusumam, and all the participants for their active participation. And from their comments, we understand that the session was very much beneficial. The keynote lecture of the international webinar will be held tomorrow at 2 p.m. by Dr. Shivakumar from University of Malaya. Hope to see you all tomorrow. Thank you once again. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.